Hello, everyone. My name is Spencer Walsh. Welcome to our first hour of at least 5 of election coverage today. My name is Spencer Walsh. Once again, we have a great lineup of stories for you, including Trump going after, of all things, the Supreme Court on a grievance-filled, just putting all balls to the wall, throwing it all out there on the campaign trail. Meanwhile, Joe Biden wrapping up the campaign in Western Pennsylvania, of all places, saying the power to change this country is in your hands. We'll take a look at what's going on at the polls, some of the problems, some of the shenanigans that may be going on, the militias out, and how everyone's being kept safe during the coronavirus. We'll also be taking maybe a look at where people will be spending, the two candidates will be spending the election. It's going to be very interesting. And I'm so pleased to inform you that we started off 2020 just like we did 2018 with Glenn Bradford joining the show. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us on what is sure to be a very busy election day. And thank you at home for tuning in as well. We hope you'll stay with us throughout 5 hours of tonight. But first, big welcome to Glenn to the show today.
Oh, well, thank you for that welcome, Spencer. It's great to be on with you.
All right. So, yeah, we do start with a check-in on how Trump actually, we'll start with a look at what the voters have been doing as voters went to the polls now for the first time, or some of them for the first time on Tuesday, to write the final chapter of the presidential campaign that has been like no other amid a coronavirus pandemic that has claimed more than 230,000 lives in the United States, cost millions of Americans their jobs, and upended daily life and election day itself. And the thing about this is nearly 100 million people had already cast their ballots before the day even dawned, taking advantage of states' efforts to make voting safer during the pandemic. Among those were both President Trump and Joe Biden, who, decided to forego going to the polls for Election Day for safety reasons. And, of course, you can say that that is kind of ironic for one of the candidates, considering how hard he fought to delegitimize some of those options. But so first, I do want to start just by asking you, Glenn, in terms of your feelings in terms of the election day. How are you feeling coming today? What is the mindset you're taking in today, and what do you expect? I think the biggest question that's on everyone's minds is, will we be able to end tonight with a clear and conclusive result, or will the sun come up and we still not know who won?
Well, I'm anxious. I mean, 4 years ago, I expected Hillary Clinton to win, and I wasn't anxious at all. I figured no one would vote for this guy. I mean, I saw how he ran his election in 2016 and his campaign in 2016, and I just didn't think Americans would come out and vote for him, but they did. So I won't be surprised that they do it again, but I do think that enough Americans this time around realize the kind of person he is, because he's had, 4 years in office, and we all know him quite well. And there'll be enough people who voted for him last time that won't vote for him again. And there's going to be, more people coming out to vote in both parties, I must say, who didn't participate in 2016. So I think you're going to have a record number of ballots cast at the end of this election. And like you said, it's an election like none other because of this pandemic and the amount of early voting that's gone on. So that's how I feel about that. And then your second question is, are we going to know at the end of the night? And I don't think so. I think we'll know. Things will be more clear. We'll certainly know about a few of the battleground states, but we won't know who will be president by the end of the night. It could take up to a week, I think, before that becomes clear.
And do you worry about what will happen in that time? Do you think that the Trump campaign will press all the kind of illegitimate buttons that they can, implying that, or outright saying that the election is being stolen because the in-person votes that are going to show his being up are likely to be counted first? Or do you see that as not as much of a concern?
I think it's likely that could happen. It depends on how close these races are in the battleground states. I think after tonight, it should be pretty clear who won Florida. Some of the votes in Broward County take a long time, but unless it's really close, and it probably will be, we might know by the end of the evening. The North Carolina results might be in, and so those are two very important bellwether states. I don't put anything past this president. I don't know if he'll declare victory at the end of this evening, but I think that the court lawsuits will continue, and there'll be more voter suppression efforts by Republicans probably all around the country, even after the election.
Do you see this?
Continue. Go ahead.
You can continue.
I don't think they'll succeed, but I think they'll make an effort like we've never seen before. I mean, we've never had an election quite like this, with all this extra voting before election day. So I think among his base, they can certainly gin up a lot of suspicion about how this election was run. But I think in the end, it's not going to work.
And the thing is, if we, like you said, if we get all those results from Florida and it shows that Biden won, then that pretty much wraps things up. Like, there is no path for Trump to electoral victory without 200, or at least from both Florida and Pennsylvania, he needs to win. So if he doesn't win those, and if Biden doesn't win Pennsylvania, then, as Nate Silver says, he becomes an underdog in the process, and then that's the downward spiral for him. Like, he really, a lot of his most strong paths run through Pennsylvania, so they're getting a sense of, and by the way, Pennsylvania will have, according to 538, only some, this very, around maybe a third or so of its votes counted on election night, so that will most likely not show a very conclusive result. But that is a very, very tough thing about it. That is really because the twin threat of the court system and Republicans just willing to say and do anything is definitely, I think, one to keep an eye on, especially with what the Supreme Court has said. Do you see the Supreme Court coming into play at all, or in this election?
I'm not sure. I think, Donald Trump certainly wants them to be weighing in heavily on this and be determinative about who wins this election. I'm not so sure the Supreme Court really wants to be a part of that. And I don't know that they are going to, play his game. I think that remains to be seen. And I certainly hope they don't want a repeat of the 2000 election. It's not good for the country to have the Supreme Court deciding elections. And
but if you think about it,
prefer not to be part of it.
If you think about it, though, Bush, three of the members of the Bush team in the 2000 elections are now sitting on the Supreme Court. So.
That's true.
So some of those rulings, though, I think are very, very disturbing. I think definitely the Supreme Court, if it's close enough, that's the thing. If it's close enough, they will kind of be the tilt. I think, even in a situation where, it's a small margin, but maybe within one or two, they can say. Or just, I don't know, depending on how the circumstances play out. But I do think you can definitely say the Supreme Court will not play the Supreme Court, in my opinion, is just not going to be our friend in the situation. Let's see what Trump has to say about this, because he was actually talking about it on his rallies. Here's a little bit of a clip of just how some of the highlights, I guess you could say, or maybe a little.
We've been under a phony, fake, hoax investigation for 3 years. Nothing but bad and really corrupt publicity from these people. And I say, I wonder what the difference would have been had it been legit, right? Had it been legit. And it turned out to be just the opposite. They were the ones that committed the crimes, not us. But I wonder what it would have been. I probably would have been a little bit easier, but the good news, we're going to win anyway. And I have like 5 of these to do today, so let's get going. And I appreciate you being here. We are returning power to you, the American people. With your help, your devotion, and your drive, we are going to keep on working. We are going to keep on fighting. We are going to keep on winning.
Yeah, so there he is. We're going to keep on winning, baby. That is his promise to the audience there. On the Supreme Court, he said it's putting our country in danger with its Friday ruling, which will allow Pennsylvania to continue accepting ballots after Election Day, at least for the time being. So that is, again, he's already kind of attacking the Supreme Court, putting pressure on it to bend more to his will, which people in the Supreme Court want to do. Because in that Friday ruling that he's talking about in Pennsylvania, it's like, yeah, they can keep counting it, but it may flip the result. So which is so ridiculous because the result is not determined yet. There's still more things coming in. There's still more ballots coming in, so it's not the result yet. But Brett Kavanaugh said, if it's going to flip the result, which means probably allow the Democrat to win, we as the Supreme Court reserve the right to stop it. So that is the kind of thing that should make everyone interested in kind of a free and fair election very, very nervous, I think. That is probably the I think something that should be hanging over everyone's minds. But do you see that as a worry as well, or?
I think it's a remote possibility, but I think we're fretting about that a little more than we should be.
Why do you say that?
I just don't think it's, well, first of all, like you said, the election has to be very close. And it could be very close in a number of states, right? The election could go Biden's way in Georgia or even in Texas by a very small margin. Mm-hmm. We suspect that the margins will be very close in Florida and probably even Pennsylvania. So what is Trump going to do? Is he going to go to the Supreme Court and ask them to change the results of all those states? It doesn't seem likely. I mean, the situation in 2000 was just in Florida alone, yeah. and that determined the election. If it's something, it's possible that something like that could happen.
I don't know. With all the lawyers they've been hiring recently, I mean, it does. It's definitely something I think worth considering a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
But I do agree, it does have to be
definitely out there. But I just don't think the Supreme Court wants to go through this again. I think they're going to say, I think they're going to rule that the rules that the states put in place should continue. They're not going to change. If a state has a rule that you can count the the late arriving ballots up to 3 days after the election, I don't think they're going to change those rules.
Yeah, I hope
I'd be very surprised
right.
if they did.
Yeah. So he was also in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That was 4 of 5, Trump, and I think really he is just becoming increasingly unhinged and just regularly making remarks be like, I don't want to be here. It's like he used to be. He one of the ones he was talking about some opera singer, and he was like, this guy, he was a great diva, and he would just say, I don't want to come out on the stage anymore. I'm leaving. And then he's like, sometimes I wish I could do that, but it's okay. We love you. Everything's very weird mindset I think he's getting in on the campaign trail. But that still is not stopping him from saying the crazy things that are going to kind of spread the discord and the tensions, fan the flames, if you will, during Election Day. So Trump told the crowd for that basis that the justices had made a political decision that would lead to cheating by his opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden. His comments followed an